All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Biografrica. Today we are tackling a critical issue that is facing Zambia and the future of the Zambezi River. So, for those
Okay.
joining us for the first time, Biographica is a platform that celebrates, African achievements and also fostering of the pride in the continent's stories. So I'm Kato, and here with me is my Anthony Egobo, and we are thrilled to be joined today or tonight by Ken Seecharran. Ken is a highly respected environmental and mining consultant with a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities surrounding resource management in Africa. Recently, Zambia has been grappling with, a severe drought that's impacting the mighty Zambezi River and the nation's energy security as well. I mean, it even goes beyond that. But I mean, Ken has been a vocal advocate for solutions, and we are excited to have him share his insights with us today. But before we dive into the interview, Ken, could you briefly tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your work?
Okay. Good evening, all. I'm Ken Seecharran, originally from Guyana in South America. I did my primary and secondary education there. Then I won a prestigious government scholarship to do a degree in mining, and I went to the UK. Um, I've completed my mining degree. I went back home and I worked for 3 years. Then I went back to the UK where I did a master's at Imperial College in London. And from then onwards, I've been traversing the world. I spent 16 years out in Zambia, and that's why I consider Zambia my second home. Zambia has been very dear to me. So when I see the problem they're facing now, I am advocating for an engineered solution, and this problem started way back in 2009. I'm semi-retired now, based in the UK, but I shuttle between UK and India, and I've made a proposal to help solve this problem, mainly with regards to Zambezi River and power generation, uh, ecosystem, recreation, fisheries, and transportation. Those are the five main uses of the Zambezi River, and I think a solution can be found, obviously at a price. When the project was first conceived in 2009, the cost estimate then was 3.5 million US dollars. My latest estimate as of yesterday has gone up now to 7 million. As erosion takes place,
That's quite
deforestation takes place, that price is going to go up. If not tackled now, in 3 years' time, I'm envisaging an expenditure of about $10 million. So that is it. In addition to that, I've done other environmental work at Chilabombwe, which is in north of the Copperbelt on the Congolese border. I've created a wetland. I've used an artificial wetland to clean up mine effluent. As you know, mine effluent can be toxic. So I use the bacteria growing on grasses. For those of you who have gone down by the riverside and you have held the grass in the water, you notice the grass is a bit slimy. That slime on the grass is bacteria. That bacteria I've used to clean up the water, and I have statistics to show that after 1 year of cleaning up, the mine effluent was almost as clean as the Virgin River before mining started. So these are some of the things I'm doing. I've done quarry work in Kenya, and a few minor things elsewhere. So my main concentration now, as I approach the twilight of my career, is solve this Zambia problem. As you know, they're getting 8 hours load shedding per day. When I first went to Zambia, in 1981, the country was exporting power, exporting to the south into South Africa, exporting to the north in the then Zaire. So that situation has reversed. Periodically they put a electricity generating ship in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Mozambique and transmit that power 2,000 kilometers into Zambia. That's very expensive power. Not only do you lose 20% of it in transmission, but the cost of the power generated is about 50 cents per kilowatt hour, money which the country badly needs. So I'm hoping that somebody is going to pick up my solution and let's run with it. It will take about 3 years to rectify the situation, but it will get everybody involved, create employment for about 65 people, and we will tackle half of the river because Kariba Dam is roughly midway between the source and the Indian Ocean. So we're going to do that first, and if successful, we can then look downstream of the Kariba Dam. People in Zimbabwe who run game lodges and that type of thing have been approaching me because they know of the work I've done. Manas Pool, Manas Pool being one on the Zimbabwean side of the river. They're asking me when I'll go and start the project there. But my first concern is upstream of the Kariba hydroelectric dam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ken. That's
In
very
terms of what you want to also achieve, especially looking at Zambia. Well, I mean, can we just go back a bit, talk about your early inspiration? Because I mean, I'm just a bit curious. I feel it
That's
to be
right.
interesting to know.
That's right. And then when I was
What,
making notes about it, because until I started making notes, I didn't realize that Guyana is 6 feet, well, 2 meters below sea level at high tide. So at high tide, if you don't keep the sea out of the land, your land will be inundated with salt water. So your kitchen garden will be flooded. Your rice fields will be flooded with salt water and everything will die. So from the age of about 6, I started damming, creating dams to keep that salt water out. And when the tide was low, you then open that dam and let the fresh water release, wash the salt away. So I started doing that at the age of 6. But at the time, I didn't know that I was dabbling with the discipline of hydrology. It was when I went to study my degree, which was mining, and open pit mines do have problem with inflow of water. We had to do 3 years of hydrology. Then I realized that what I was doing as a kid was serious hydrology. So hydrology became my pet subject because I started off as a kid. So when I went back to work in Guyana upon graduation, although I was working in the plant, whenever there was a flooding disaster in the mine, and on average we had one about every 6 months, they will send me out as an independent person to do the analysis. And I sent you a picture of a flooded dragline recently. So half of the time I spent out in the mine looking at these flooding hydrological problems. The guys in the plant used to laugh that Ken is in the mine doing his day job. He will come to the plant to do his night job. So that's how I got involved in hydrology from the age of about 6.
wow. That's really insightful. So, to be honest, a lot of people don't know about. People have heard climate change. Some people think it's a hoax. They don't take it seriously. So, Well, a little bit research about you. Your background combines environmental awareness with mining expertise. So, how do you navigate the potential conflict between these two areas?
That's right. That's right. And it's best looked at. It best looked at through some statistics. You know, people take life for granted. They say, the drought is coming. In the local language, local language in Zambia, they call a drought Chilala. They say, oh, it's the year of the Chilala. Our ancestors have been having it. But when you look at the statistics, you know, Zambia is getting drier and drier. Rainfall is dropping by about 2.3% every decade. Every 10 years, they are losing 2.3% of the rainfall.
Yeah.
Added to that, evaporation. Evaporation is increasing. Year on year, evaporation is increasing by 2.7 millimeters per year. So they're getting less rain and they're getting more evaporation. So the two of them are combined to give these drier conditions.
Mm.
Plus, you remember now, people are putting pressure on the environment. They are cutting down trees for fuel wood. They
Yeah.
are cutting down trees to make charcoal. The local people call it malasha in their language. So charcoal is now taken to the market and sold for cash. So all of that is affecting the weather pattern. You know, it's becoming drier. And one I'm going to talk about later, and this is the main concern of the project,
Okay.
it's we are unable to arrest the rainfall water. That is what my major concern is going to be.
Okay.
In the
What?
mine, the same thing happens. You know, some mines are very wet and you have a large inflow of water.
Yeah.
Some mines are very dry. You know, one mine I worked at in Congo, we needed the water to supply the camp. The camp water came from the mine. So when you had drought conditions, we had to restrict water use in the camp.
Yeah.
So all of these have combined to get me where I am today.
Okay. So you work on several projects across the continent, and not just in Africa, across the world, I would say. So how do environmental challenges and awareness differ across regions, particularly Africa as compared to the rest of the world?
That's right. That's right. In Africa, it's easy for people to say, but Mr. Ken, our ancestors did it 100 years ago. Yes, they did it, but the population was not as large. The pressure they put on the environment was not as profound as it is now. Whatever trees they cut down grew again. You know, okay, the biodiversity was lost,
Yeah.
but the vegetation cover was there. In 1999, I did a study in Luapula, Luapula province in northern Zambia, where the guys were cutting trees, slash and burn vegetation. There in the local language, they call it chitimene. So they were cutting the trees, burning it, and using the ash as fertilizer. So I went to an area where it was widespread, and I was surprised to see trees regrowing. You know,
Mm.
trees were already up to 3.5 meters. Okay, admittedly, the biodiversity was not there. The caterpillars were not there. The nocturnal rats were not there. But at least the vegetation cover was there. Last last summer, last June, July, I went back to the same area, and everything was almost normal, but those guys, they didn't have the population pressure because they were in a remote part of the Luapula province in Zambia. Whatever extra population came, they migrated to the city. So the
Yeah.
pressure was not as great. So the regrowth was able to balance the deforestation. But where the pressure is high, and this is the Zambezi River catchment area, where the pressure is high, the vegetation is not recovering. They're cutting it down faster than it's regrowing.
Mm.
So that's the problem. Luckily now, we have media at our disposal. You go into these remote areas, the guys are watching satellite television, you have radio, you have social media. So we can now use that to educate the people. School curriculum is now changing. Conservation is now coming in. And once we're in the area, we will make sure one or two members of staff. I will have I am proposing an administrative staff of about five. So one or two, about twice a week, will go into schools and tell them of the project and some of the conservation measures we expect from them. So I think education could help to arrest that deforestation problem.
Oh, yeah. Right. So let's talk about Zambezi River specifically now. You identify as contained in your proposal that deforestation is a major threat to the Zambezi. So, what specific human activities are driving this deforestation in your opinion, being an expert?
Well, the need for fuel wood, and the need for cash.
Okay.
The need for cash. They are burning the trees into charcoal, taking it to the nearest town where people don't have electricity. So they buy charcoal, or malasha in their language. They buy the charcoal and use it for cooking, you know. So we need to get trees back. My plan, and we will talk about this later as the interview progresses, is
Yeah.
to recharge the water table. The water table is below ground, where we store is a big storage tank of water. So in the dry season, that water is released. Those of you who have gone to the riverbank in the dry season, you will see water coming out on the side, on the bank of the river. And very often it's brown, it's rusty brown in color. That's due to the dissolved iron which is in the water as it hits oxygen in air. Iron hydroxide is precipitated
Yeah. Your internet too is I can't hear you anymore. Hmm.
My main few methods which about as the main part of the project.
Okay. We had a little glitch on the internet, technology wise, so um it hasn't joined now. Yeah. So, Mr. Ken, that was a very insightful um insightful conversation in terms of the root causes of deforestation as a major threat to Zambezi. So let's dive into the long-term solutions, because we've looked at your document and it proposes a 5-year afforestation plan. Can you elaborate on the specific methods and challenges involved?
That's right. As I've said before, it will be an engineered solution. For the long term, we need to plant trees. We need trees back on the banks of the Zambezi. But the immediate plan is to get that water table to rise. So what we are going to do, we are going to take about a thousand kilometers of the river from the back end, from where the river enters Lake Kariba, all the way to the source. We're going to work our way up um, using a little JCB, a little loader. We're going to push up the soil on the bank of the river. We will push up the soil by about 1 meter. We will make a bund, and that bund is now going to hold the rainfall back and arrest it, help it to get down to the water table. So in the dry season, the riverside springs, or as we say, the riparian springs, will now release water into the river and keep the flow going. Contemporaneously with that, we're going to plant trees just before the start of the rain, that is at the end of the dry season. We will walk along the riverbank, and we will see which trees are the healthiest. We know once they are healthy, they are capable of withstanding the drought. So that's the species we're going to use to plant 10 meters apart. We're going to engage the people in the community and say, come on, plant these trees for us 10 meters apart. And for each tree you plant, we give you $5 now. And in 3 years' time, we come back and we do an audit. If the trees are still alive, we give you another $5. Because after 3 years, the trees should be capable of taking care of themselves. So in other words, we'll be paying 10 US dollars per tree, and these will be 10 meters apart. These trees will just act as shelter, as catchment area for the undergrowth. Is the plants in the undergrowth that trap the water. So what we are doing with that bond, by pushing up that bond, that will not last forever. In 4 or 5 years, that will be eroded back to soil level. Hopefully by then, our trees would have grown and they can now start arresting the water and building up the water table. And the third thing we're going to do, because you have these springs, what I call the riparian springs, the springs releasing water into the river, I'll get my men to go in and clear them, because they will be silted up over the years. The silt and the sand in the river would have blocked them, all caused by deforestation. Also the soil erosion would have blocked those riverside springs. So I'll take my men in. Normally you will have to go about 4 or 5 meters into the bank of the river. So we'll clean that and get a decent flow. So with all those in mind, we will get extra water into the Zambezi River, into the Kariba Dam, and we can redress the problem.
Fantastic. As you know, we are not experts in. We're really interested in this. We are not experts yet. We research on some of these things. So
yeah, let me give a bit more information. Yes. I was out there last June, July. That's how I got my updated estimate. I reckon we can do about 1 kilometer per day. I will have about 65 people out there doing various things. 40, 40 will be the local people planting the trees. 20 will be my men cleaning the cleaning the springs, and another 5 will be administrative,
Yeah.
managing the payments and the catering and that type of thing.
Okay.
Most of the time, we'll be sleeping in the forest, in the bush. So we'll have to get tents, army tents. We're looking at 6 army tents for my staff. The local people will not need that. They will go home. We'll have to look at catering. It costs about $30 per head per day to supply my staff with food. So things like that. We will need a boat. We will need a boat to go to the other side of the river. We will need vehicles. We'll need a JCB front end loader. So all of that adds up, plus contingencies. All of that adds up to a cost about 7 million.
Okay. So it looks like,
Fuel will be needed.
yeah. Okay. So it looks like it's going to be a community project. So you're going to involve.
Well, that's right. That's right. Unless you get them involved, they will not take ownership.
Yeah.
We need them to take ownership. We need them to care for the trees as if it's their own child.
Yeah.
But they know it's an investment. They know that once they care for it and it's still going after 3 years, money is on its way.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to use.
So,
The carrot approach.
yeah. So apart from your staff, I know you've got your staff and then you got the local community. So the local community, how are you going to motivate? Are you going to incentivize them to become stewards of the environment? Because
That's right. That's right. I will send 1 or 2 people in advance of us. They will be a few kilometers ahead of us, educating the people and saying, look, a party is coming behind, and this is the plan. Those who want to get on board, volunteer now, put up your hands, and they will start educating them as to what is needed. So when we reach there, it's just a matter of implementing. I've got friends in Zambia who own chicken farms, so they are prepared to send me truckloads of chicken manure to plant the trees.
okay, that's interesting.
So we have been discussing the Zambezi River Basin, and you mentioned that Ken, he mentioned the root causes as contained in his proposal, which is deforestation. Deforestation being a major threat to the Zambezi. And then you've also talked about the solution, like the long-term solutions to this, which is an afforestation plan, right? As well as involving the community by incentivizing them so that they become stewards of the environment. So now, can we move to let's say the dam crisis and also Zambia's future? So we'll start with the drought impact. Anthony, can you bring up the video of the president?
Yes, let's play that. What the president said about
1 million hectares of the planted maize has been adversely affected across the 84 of our 116 districts across the country. Similarly, pasture availability has reduced for animals, while ground and surface water levels have also been impacted negatively. 9.8 million of our people have been adversely affected by this drought. Of these, 6.6 million people are in need of urgent humanitarian assistance. On Thursday, 29th February 2024, we declared the country's drought as a national disaster and emergency. To respond to the adverse effects of the drought, emphasis is being placed on the provision of food assistance to the people in need, as well as interventions for early recovery and the resilience building going forward. We are placing special focus on investments in water development for agriculture to produce more food and indeed energy production.
So President Hichilema, he's appealing for international help due to the drought. Clearly, we can see that drought has had a far-reaching impact, right? Cutting across different aspects of life, from agriculture to power generation, and so on and so forth. So it's affecting all and sundry. Now, Ken, how do you react to, President Hichilema's appeal?
I empathize with him. I was a commercial farmer in Zambia from 1987 to 1991. I had to dispose of the farm when I was transferred to Chilabombwe, that's on the Congo border. It was too far. It was 135 kilometers from the farm, so I couldn't run it. I was able to plant maize during the dry season. The trick is, and I'm talking, but nobody is listening to me. The trick is what you do, if you have 4 hectares of crops, you will plant 3 and you will let 1 go fallow. You will rest 1 hectare for the year, right? So when the rain comes, grass and weeds will now start growing. So what I did, I plowed that into the soil. Plow those grass and those weeds into the soil. That organic matter then helps to improve the water retention capacity of the soil. So in a year, you can be able to do that 3 times. So every year you put 1 hectare on rotation, and that way you can build up the soil. I didn't know how to plant maize. A Zimbabwe friend came as the sun was setting. He took me into the farm and he showed me how to plant maize. In the first year, we harvested 158 bags. These were 90 kg bags of maize. Second year, we went to 260, and it kept on growing like that, just using this simple technique. So I will suggest to the government that they buy about 10 tractors, and you can pick up these Mahindra tractors dead cheap here in India, good quality, robust tractors. Give us 10 tractors for each district, and we will now start plowing that stubble, plowing that grass, plowing that weed back into the soil and building it up so it has a water retention property. That way we can grow maize, we can grow corn on half the amount of water. These guys still do an awful lot of research. They do have a Mount Makulu research center in the country, and they do breed seedlings that suit each province in the country. They do a lot of work, but people don't pay attention to that. They just go to the old-fashioned method their grandfathers were using. The technology is there, let's use it. And maize is the staple food. Maize is the staple food. And it's surprising when you go, some people just have one meal. It's dinner. Dinner is the main meal. Lunch might be cassava, sweet potatoes. So it is, and I understand. I know what he's talking about. Aid will come, but next year or 2 years later, when the El Nino comes again, the same problem. You cannot keep on begging every time. There is a solution to that problem. I practiced it, and it worked. When the drought came, and in their language they call it chilala. When the rain stopped and you can get 3 weeks, 4 weeks of no rain, most of the corn, most of the maize crops were stunted. As a result, you get half the yield. My maize kept on growing. Obviously, this drought is worse than that. It's running into months instead of weeks. But we can engineer a solution. Give me 10 tractors per district, and we will convert the country to an export, food export country.
All right. So I know the president is appealing for international help, but then we have to also look at the urgency. So given the urgency, and now I'm talking about alternative solutions, do you think there are any temporary measures that Zambia can take to mitigate the drought effects on the Kariba Dam? Like anyone that is more immediate?
Well, some of the commercial farmers, they do have irrigation equipment from rivers, from dams, from boreholes. And His Excellency went into an area called Mukushi. Mukushi is in central Zambia, and you have massive farms there, 20,000 hectares and above. It's so big that the guys have to spray the crops using aeroplane. So he spoke to the commercial farmers. They have the capability. Um, they will fill part they will fill part of the vacuum in terms of food production, but we need more. Unfortunately, we will have to import, and worse than that, some GM maize might be slipped in through the back door. That's what we're afraid of, and Zambia is against that. In fact, the late President Wanawasa had a very profound message, and he said, "Not because my people is poor that you're going to poison them with GM food." Those were the exact words he used. But I'm afraid at times like this, when you're desperate for maize, some GM maize might come as gift maize, be it from Canada or Argentina.
That's really interesting. So we'll be looking for. So you highlighted your solutions. They sound really interesting. So we can only wish you the best of luck. This is going to go out, and we're going to get our audiences and even beyond our audiences to see your solutions. Hopefully, the president sees it. And so, what message would you give to Biografrica's audience about generally protecting Africa's resources and ensuring a sustainable future?
Yeah, while I lived in Congo for 2 years. Every conceivable mineral is found in that country. But what has it got to show? Way back in 2012, I gave an interview to the business section of the Times of Zambia, and my proposal was whoever comes in. I mean, the local community, they don't have the capital. You have to go for foreign direct investment. And when they come to you, you are the host, you are hosting them. I was advocating for 10% of the profit that foreign company makes goes to the host community, for the schools, for the clinics, for the infrastructure. And that was printed. And one of the owner of two mines, he's late now, he owned two mines. He was not happy. He read the electronic version of that interview, and he immediately got one of his general managers to send me an email. Within 4 hours, I got that email that he was very unhappy. But it's the truth. Otherwise, as their corporate social responsibility, they will go to a community, they will give some exercise books, they will give some pencils, they will build a toilet, and they will say that is corporate social responsibility. It is not. The host community has been kind enough to welcome them with open arms. So I'm saying the least they can do is give 10% of the profit to the community for these projects. Do not give it to central government. Central government has got commitment to pay civil servants and that type of thing. The money will be used and it will dry up before it even reaches the host community. That money should go direct to the host community. Let the taxes, let the income tax, let the royalty, let the PAYE, let all of that go to central government. But 10% of the profit goes to the host, be it in agriculture, be it in tourism, be it in mining. That should be the modus operandi.
Thanks very much, Mr. Ken. Your work is, I've never met anyone more passionate about, because we had some interactions now, even before now. I've never met anyone more passionate about.
Well, Zambia is considered my second home.
Yeah.
You know, when I went out there in 1981, I was the lowest paid expat on the Zambian mines. At the time, they were running 8 Zambian mines. In 1989, when I got promoted to superintendent, I became the youngest superintendent of those 8 Zambian mines. And that was based on credit. So Zambia is dear to my heart. You know, my 3 boys were born in Zambia. They're Zambians. So I feel more of a Zambian than I do Guyanese, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly independent. I'm fairly independent now. So I'm not looking at monetary emoluments. I just want to make a name and I just want to see the people's lives improve. You know,
Yeah.
I used to be a school teacher in Guyana, so knowledge transfer should be easy for me. Plus, I have a minuscule language, a minuscule knowledge of the Bemba, one of the main languages there. So I can talk to the guys. I can empathize with them, and they can see that Mr. Ken is one of us, and they
Yeah.
will listen. You know, and life has been like that all along. And I
Yeah.
would like to build on that platform. If somebody is listening, please let us help these guys. They need the help.
Yeah.
Government cannot do everything. Government is just a facilitator.
Yeah. So talking about
All right,
making a
Ken.
name, your work actually inspire it just creates the importance, it shows the importance of people getting involved in something to make a difference. So what I think is that there must be other people who are interested in these sort of things, younger people who are passionate about the environment. What's the advice, what sort of advice would you have for them to so they succeed in their various ventures?
That's right, guys. Get out of that air-conditioned office. Get your hands dirty. Let's go out there. That is where the action is. That's where you will get the achievements to put on your CV. I used to encourage my subordinates, at least every 3 months, you must find one thing to add to your CV. With the state of agriculture now, the agricultural graduates can get 2 things to add on their CV every 3 months. Eh? Nowhere else in the world will you have such a free hand to experiment with things and make your name. You know? So this is your chance. You know, when I was heading a group, I'll say, look, publish something, write a paper. If it's that good, I will send you to go and present it at a conference. So we have to motivate them. The guys are there, they're keen, eh? And with so many, Zambia is running close to Nigeria now in terms of universities, the amount of universities they have on the ground, you know. So these guys are coming out as agricultural engineers and they're running taverns and they're running sawmills and they're growing tomatoes and that type of thing, we ought to make better use of them. They are willing. They are willing. It's just that the opportunity is not there, and they've got a family or they've got parents to look after. So whatever job comes, they're taking it, which is not right. They weren't trained for that.
Exactly. Kato, you were going to say something.
Okay. Yes. I just wanted to close by appreciating Ken. So this has been a truly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and offering hope for the Zambezi's future. Your call to action for Biografrica's audience is truly inspiring. And for our viewers, we encourage you to learn more about the Zambezi River and also explore ways you can contribute to its conservation. We'll include some resources when we publish this series. So thank you all for joining us today. Be sure to follow Biographica for more inspiring stories and conversations about Africa's incredible people and their efforts to create a brighter future. Thank you all so much.
Thanks very much, guys. It's been an honor being here.
Thanks
Much
for joining.
appreciated.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.